And then sort of on that same idea of, startup culture versus big company culture, obviously all three of us are at pretty large companies. I don't know where each of them are on the Forbes list, but they're definitely pretty sizable in terms of employees and revenue. So were you guys looking for a big company right out of college? I know a lot of people like to get it early on in their resume because it'll like open up a lot of doors. But obviously, Ben touched on some of the advantages of working in a startup and sort of like a broad skill set and trying a lot of different things at a single company in a single position. So what were your guys' sort of thought processes around that coming out of college or even now?
Personally, I was looking for a larger company, and I think that I do want to work at a larger company for maybe not my entire career, but at least for the first 5 to 10 years,
Mm.
because I do kind of have a goal to maybe in some way be able to start something on my own. Maybe do some type of IT consulting.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're able to bring like a good breadth of knowledge to the table, you can really help people. And I think that the connections that you need to do those things can be really
Mm.
are better formed in large organizations because there's so many people you can meet, so many people that have worked in other places. They
Mm.
have great experience. At the best companies, a lot of times you have some really intelligent people, so you can really form those connections. And so coming out of college, I was like, man, I really do want to be at a large company for a while. Stability as well, and
Yeah.
especially in this coronavirus time, COVID-19 is
Mm.
huge. And I feel like even though a lot of places are making cuts, I think that being a larger company, um, there's a little bit less of an impact or a little bit more leeway because they do have that cash and
Yeah.
that revenue to kind of continue to support the business even when things aren't going great and they have to kind of weather the storm. So that was kind of my thought process behind it.
Right.
And smaller companies I think can be great because you may get more hands-on experience with maybe the top level people that you may not be able to get as much of at a large organization because there's so many. I mean, especially in my company, there's so many managing directors, there's so many
Yeah.
levels in managing directors, there's so many senior managers, so many teams. Personally, my team is very small, so I get to interface with my team lead a lot, and the two managers. There's like three of us or four of us on my of the team, and
Mm.
that's including the guy who leads the entire team. So really, it's like three of us,
Wow.
and so we're pretty close, and so that kind of allows you to kind of have like a smaller company vibe because you can
Yeah.
get access to those managers and work and like basically get to look at all the work and ask any questions that you need. But that's not always the case because a lot of times these large company teams are pretty big or they can be pretty big. And so, I think that there's benefits to both. But yeah, personally, when I came out of college, and even now, I think that, staying a larger company, even though there are some obviously negatives to everything, I think that the positives at these larger companies to me kind of outweigh uh, the negatives. And also getting that experience, like the company name, obviously, like, oh, if I have Oracle on my
Yeah.
resume, or if I have Deloitte, or I have SAP, or I have some big company on my resume, they'll be like, you're used to working across different functions, you're used to working in a fast-paced environment,
Yeah.
dealing with all these different areas, all these different things that can go wrong. I'm sure that both of you all in your jobs have to communicate with other teams to get your stuff done. Obviously, Ben does because he's a product owner. But it's like, you have to learn how to kind of figure out how to stay on schedule while waiting on other people to do things, or just
Yeah.
making sure that you're putting that in. And so it just helps you to kind of pick up. It's really a skill, honestly, working in larger organizations, and I think that's really a good thing. So that was kind of my thought process on it. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
definitely think you're right on a lot of those points. Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I was gonna say I also was very much interested in a large company coming out of college. And like when I was applying, I was just really focused on the top big companies, tech companies, or finance tech companies. So I definitely was interested in FANG for sure. But
Yeah.
then also,
uh,
SAP, Oracle,
yeah.
Capital One. I mean, there are plenty of other companies too besides FANG. But yeah, definitely was interested in large companies. And part of it is kind of the stability of it. With
Sure.
startups, you never know how they're going to do. And a lot were impacted by, COVID-19. I know people working for startups who lost their jobs. I know some
Yeah.
who had to take pay cuts to stay hired, and that's always tough to handle. So I know with a lot of these larger companies, they're all thriving actually, like Microsoft, Facebook, Google,
Yeah.
SAP. I mean,
Yeah.
all doing really well even in the coronavirus. And so
Amazon.
yeah, I mean the stability of that, but also too opportunities. So
Mm.
um, going into a startup, you could go in as a software engineer, but I didn't really find any startups willing to take a chance on someone out of college for product management.
Mm.
A lot of startups maybe can't like afford that, because
That
if you don't
risk.
have experience and you don't know what you're doing, that could be
Right.
really, really detrimental to the product. Versus a big company, you can kind of start off in maybe an internally facing product or a
Yeah.
rotational program where the expectations might be a little bit lower. And then as you prove yourself, you can step into a more impactful role. And then the company knows that, okay, you've got this. With a startup, you don't have that luxury always. And if you make one mistake, that could kill the startup. Versus
Right.
a big brand, it's not always going to be critical. If you make a mistake, it might be a good thing, in depending on if it's a small mistake or not.
Mm.
So for me, yeah, large companies was what I was looking for, and I think I want to stay in there for several years as well, just like John. I thought about potentially starting a company, but I don't know. I mean, I looked into it. It's tough. I mean, with
Yeah.
brands and
Yeah.
creating a brand, sometimes it's luck, and
Hmm.
sometimes
Definitely.
yeah, if you find something that no one's doing, but then all of a sudden a new competitor
Right.
does the same thing as you, and then they can just like kill your startup as well. So very risky. And
Yeah.
yeah, but I guess I don't know. I was a little
No, you're fine.
all over the place, but yeah, for me, large companies is what I've been interested in.
Yeah. No, I agree with both of you. I think definitely that stability and sort of lack of volatility is definitely important. Especially right coming out of college, you probably have some college loans. If you're, an average college student, you
Right.
got like 10,000 or however much of 10,000 is probably on the low end of college loans. And then, I mean, I've always felt in some ways, don't really feel it anymore, but growing up, that just felt like kind of like a burden to my parents, especially financially. So I definitely know like they
Uh,
couldn't do certain things because, I was around and they had to, pay, feed me, look after me and all that kind of stuff. So I definitely wanted something that, okay, now I can actually contribute. Now I can actually like be on the black side and like positive side of money, not on the red side. Um, so that was definitely important for me. And another reason larger company was more suited for that kind of financial stability goal. Obviously, some students don't really care all that much about financial stability and try to do a startup right out of college, which all,
right.
all for that. But like other people don't really have that luxury of being able to do that. And then also, I think Ben mentioned sort of the um, not corporate ladder, but sort of you have more options at a larger company. There's more positions. So if you want to grow at a company and grow your career and want to stay there for a little bit, you do have more options of where to go. Where's the next little step? Because at a startup with more of a flat hierarchy, like the next step up's like a big step up, right?
Right.
Um,